Um, so I always call you Cat of Media Matters, but now you're not Cat of Media Matters. You are. So I'm just I'm just going to say, why don't you explain how to say your last name? Because I feel terrible that I can't very easily. I will learn today. I will know how to say it after today. So go ahead and say your fabulous last name.
Abughazaleh.
Oh my God, it's so exciting. Yeah, Abughazaleh, that's so
But
much
it's okay.
going
I mean, I
on.
put Abu on everything. And so like I
Yes,
don't blame
yes.
people for not knowing how to pronounce it.
And how did you get started uh, with the whole Fox News situation? I get asked that constantly. So I know you were at Media Matters, but how did that happen?
Yeah, so I had graduated from college in 2020 and I went into George Washington University wanting to be like in um, you know, the foreign service or journalism. And by the time I graduated in 2020, started the pandemic, I was so disenchanted with both our government and, you know, journalism and media institutions as a whole. And so I wanted to find something that aligned with my values, and Media Matters was kind of the perfect thing. My boss, Andrew Lawrence, who's still leading up night shift, he's the one that hired me. We bonded because I did stand up in college and we both worked in the service industry. And so, yeah, then I got to get paid to make fun of these dweebs for a living and watched Fox every night with my fellow night shifters, 7 hours a day. I started on Hannity and then I went to Tucker in I want to say January of 2021 or like late December, and stayed on there till he got fired and started making videos in general the whole time I was doing supercuts. I started doing on-camera explainers January 2023.
Oh wow, so that's an actual name for that. I don't even know. I'm
That's what I
so
call
Gen
them at
X.
least.
I'm so Gen X and you're so Gen Z that I'm always like, what is that? Or what are we doing? I'm just like, I'm like a weirdo who doesn't like to even be in my videos because I'm like, I just don't want to deal with it. Just so I'm a lot of times I'm audio, it's just my voice rather than my face. But it's there's a whole it's mainly due to speed. I can just quickly do a voiceover and get done with it and move on to the next video. Whereas when I have
Yeah,
to do camera, it's like, oh, here we go.
I have to put on
Like,
makeup, I have to do all this stuff,
yeah,
and
it's
it's
like,
like I spend so
yeah.
much more time on makeup for videos. I have people like when they meet me in real life, they're like, you wear a lot less makeup than I expected. And it's like, yeah.
Well, yeah, because you have to, or you look really, I look very washed out now because I'm on medication, so I can't wear my contacts. So, because the contacts will get stained. Can't make this up. I'm on a weird antibiotic. It's a long story. I'm fine. I just got sick yesterday, completely out of nowhere, and used telehealth and like had to go to a pharmacy. It was like my yesterday was hilariously dramatic, and now I'm like, I'm
Poor
fine.
thing.
I'm fine. It's okay. It's okay. Um, it's all good. But anyway, so when you were at Media Matters, what was probably because you were so young too to handle something like Fox. And then I always think of Fox as like boomers, you know? Like how was that as somebody your age coming in and dealing with this like crazy world? Because you're from Texas originally, right?
Yes.
And so now suddenly you're immersed in just like, crazy. How was that for you?
I mean, like I had experience with Fox because, like I said, I grew up in Texas, and also my family we were Republicans growing up. My parents didn't, they wouldn't have watched like Newsmax back then if that was a thing. So it was definitely like more grounded, but there was still a lot of stuff. I was just saying today to someone that when I was a kid, all of the adults around me would talk about how Obama was a bad speaker because he used a teleprompter. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a right thing when I was like in third grade. And now I'm like, well, everyone uses a teleprompter, and he's famously one of the best speakers of our time. That's an insane thing. That's just like completely divorced from reality. And then in college, I used to do stand up sets about the five. Um, and that was really fun where I just make fun of the five. And so I wasn't like totally, going in blind. One of my favorite things on night shift is getting a new person because everyone that's hired is like, they're qualified, but also they have to have the right vibes. And everyone on the
Mhm.
same team has the same level of like potential for brain brokenness. Um, and so watching people who think they know a lot about Fox learn about all of the lore, all of the side characters, all of the shit that just like you and I know, and like 50 really mentally struggling people that know it professionally.
Wow.
It's
So
wild.
how do you do it as a team? Because I'm a one woman show and I'm always interested of like, so you say 7 hours. Did you go to the office and just hang out?
So we worked from home. I mean, there is an office that we go to sometimes. It was, hybrid or optional. I usually stayed home, but each person had their specific shows. So when you just pick it up or you just weren't feeling it for the day, we could switch. It wasn't like a strict thing, but we all kind of had like our areas of expertise, and so we would really focus on that. So for me, it was for a long time Tucker and the Five, and what it does is it builds up this nightly compendium in your brain, because even when you're switching, like right now, I go through transcripts every morning, and so I still get that, but having that really specialized type and having a bunch of people on shift with you that have that for Hannity and Laura Ingraham is really helpful. And so then in between, then we would do written content, or for me, I would make my videos. And because Media Matters, it's one of the best places to find clips and to find a library of every insane thing right wingers have said. And it's also a great place to find analysis and research and like really intense documents that go through numbers that you could not imagine.
Oh yeah, because you guys get the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many resources, and it's one of the best parts of working there.
Yeah, I always say that. I do Fox and Friends, the five, and then I rotate the primetime shows, and then pretty much this year I constantly pick up extra because Trump does something crazy or something happens and I have to pick up extra. And like during the assassination attempt, I picked up 8 hours on Sunday because the assassination attempt was on a Saturday night. So I felt like I had to get all of this extra programming that they had added at the last minute because they were like panicked. And then that went right into the RNC. And I'm just like, I can't
It's
breathe.
especially election times, like it's just
It's
there's
so
did you do
bad.
the 2020 election watching Fox?
No, I was in grad school.
Okay, yeah, it was like none of us took a vacation day from Labor Day
Yeah,
forward.
you
It
can't.
was fucking nuts at one point because we would get DoorDash credits because we'd just be working for extra hours and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So we would get
yeah.
that while we're working from home because it was the pandemic. And at a certain point during that time we had the debate and then the town hall and Trump got COVID and all this stuff. Like my entire fridge was just DoorDash leftovers. Like it was just piles of pork buns, and
Hilarious.
did not leave my house.
I joke about that all the time. I'm like, I struggle with doing laundry and buying groceries when it gets bad because I can't keep up. And it's
Yeah,
like people have no idea how bad it is. And I'm like, oh, it's bad. And then I produce my own podcast. So I don't have a
right.
producer or anything. I do it all myself.
I
So
feel your
I'm
pain.
always exhausted. Well, and then I want to ask too, like, how did you, because I am fascinated by this and I was so excited for you when you announced it. How did you become an influencer at the DNC? Did you have to apply or did they ask you?
Yeah, there was like a creator, credential application, and I had someone that was either a volunteer or associated with the campaign send it to me. So I applied, and yeah, I got my credentials. I have them right here, although it was just today that I got my Secret Service ones. They've
Oh
had a
my
bit
God.
trouble printing them, and so that makes it just easier to get through security.
That's so exciting. That's so
Yeah,
exciting.
it's been
So,
fun.
and how did you make the transition? Because you were kind of making the transition while you're at Media Matters from like journalist for Media Matters to influencer. I know there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah. I mean, like I don't know if I'd call myself an influencer. I know a lot of people would. I just really enjoy doing analysis and putting things in context. Um, and so that was like never the point of my videos to get this much attention except to like spread the message, but they've just connected with people. And so Media Matters, all of my stuff was on my personal accounts. It was not representing the company, but it did help with the company in terms of spreading the message of like what I was researching at night. And then during the day, I would make these videos. Um, and so it was just kind of like a natural thing. I'm locked in a lot of the time, and I wanted to talk about the stuff and infect other people with the brainworms of knowing how dangerous the right is. And yeah, it's turned out better than I expected.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I loved watching it happen in real time.
You've been
'Cause
so supportive.
well, I'm a big believer. When I was your age, I dealt with older women, um, sadly, sometimes who were really nasty. because they were like resentful, which was so weird because the
Yeah.
world is so mean to women that I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
And
I'm not,
you defended me, you
oh yeah,
promoted my stuff,
I,
and like,
I just view, I want to help other people out, and I don't view people as competition because like I am twice your age. Absolutely no one is going to think of the two of us as the same. We're an apple and an orange. They don't see us as two apples because it's
right.
like totally different market.
And even if they did, so
Yeah, who
what?
cares? I mean, because you can't control it anyway. And so it's like I can't control how other people view me or view my work. And so I don't care. I just keep putting it out. And it's like, if
Yeah.
you like it, great. If you don't, I don't care. And it's sort of like, because I remember like I was a performer when I was your age. So it was a little bit different. But I remember like some women were really great to me and championed me. But I just dealt with a lot of like I would enter the room when I was like 25 or whatever, and I would just get this like, oh, who does she think she is? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I'm not, I'm just broke and looking for work. You know,
Right.
it was like, I don't want to date your husband. I don't want to date your boyfriend. And
I
I've
don't.
talked to you about this before. When you are a young woman and you put anything out there, I mean, it could literally be like, I like to bake brownies. You
Mhm.
get hate because men just
It doesn't matter what it is.
yeah, it doesn't matter. And it's
It's an
so
automatic hate button.
because it's resentment. What it is it's men who resent the fact that you exist and that you're not like just worshiping them or whatever, just being a passive object of just like, look at me, I'm gorgeous, you know? And
Yeah.
because you exist and you have a point of view, any point of view, literally, like I like to bake brownies, that's it. They hate you. And it's so wild to watch like Mike, what's that guy's Mike Lee, that horrible man who bothers you all the time, Mike
Oh,
Smith. He's got a really
what's his
generic
name?
name. I
He's
don't.
the dude from. I love that we don't remember his name.
He's a
Um,
lawyer, and it's like Mike Lee or Mike
oh,
Smith
Mike
or
Davis.
Mike Davis. Like he comes at you like all the time, and I've seen it, and like totally ignores me. Like I don't
It's
exist.
insane. I mean, I always joke. I'm like, oh, if we get like everyone that Don Jr. wants to be like, which we already have for VP, but like AG, I was like, I don't want to have to marry Mike Davis at gunpoint. I don't want to do that.
No, I remember it because like when I was in undergrad, I got sexually harassed by professors to the point that I dropped out of a school and changed schools but I wasn't the only woman. They were doing it to a slew of young women. And that was in the 90s where it was starting to people are starting to say like that's you shouldn't sexually harass your students, but it wasn't like viewed now like it would
Because of
be
woke.
yeah, it wasn't viewed now like it's viewed more as like a that you absolutely can't do that. But in the
Yeah.
90s, it was sort of like frowned upon. They were starting to say, don't do that. But and I remember that kind of hostility that I had to deal with when I was young. And so I just always want to help younger women and not be that, this is my joke. I joked about I've written about this being in the Disney villainous stage of my life
Oh
where
yeah.
I'm supposed to be the evil queen going, oh, mirror, mirror on the wall, and
Yeah.
in reality, I'm like, I'm fabulous being single. I don't care.
Thriving,
I just don't,
beautiful,
like
vibing,
I just don't,
two cats.
two cats, man. I'm like, that's my ideal world right now. I just don't like everything about the Disney villainess. I am not. And I find it very funny that that even is a trope that is
Yeah.
throughout everything in our culture. It's this trope of like the jealous older woman when in reality, I'm like, man, I remember what it was like to be 25 and that is hard.
And like I
And
always say, like women rock. Women
yeah.
rock. Like I think that there's this like weird competition that the patriarchy has put in us, but for the most part, that like has been going down, especially since like Me Too. But like in general, women support each other so much, and like that is such a wrong stereotype in like the grand scheme of things. Like even if it was someone I hated, if it was a girl asking for a tampon,
Oh yeah.
absolutely,
Oh
one
yeah.
second,
Well, last night I caught a screenshot of it was Bernie Sanders on one side, and then on the other side, split screen, it was Hannity. He was just showing the protesters. And I thought, what are you doing? Like they're just praying, they were hoping for something to happen. So how
Yeah,
has that been from your end as somebody who's inside the DNC?
the protests.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I'd like to say that one of Sean Hannity's favorite things in the world is praying for violent, horrible things to happen. I've done videos on this before, but one of his favorite catchphrases on radio and TV is, I hope to God I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But, and then talk about how terrorists will come over the southern border. He's been wrong about it for like literally decades.
Yeah.
But he always says, I hope to God I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but I hope to God I'm wrong. Like, good news, Sean, you're always wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as the protests, I mean, you know, they're, I have seen them outside. I have my keffiyeh tied to my backpack. For listeners who don't know, I'm half Palestinian. You know, I think it's great that they're using their voice. I also think that it's pressured the Democratic Party into recognizing Palestinians at the very least as like humans. There was a panel about Palestinian human rights on Monday. And so, I mean, it's not like some anarchy riot mob out here. There are cops using their power, but you know, it's been people using their freedom of speech to try to stop something horrible.
Of course. And I totally thought that there's absolutely nothing wrong with protesting. People should protest.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you're saying that. It's just like, you know, they try to blow it up into something, and they're hoping someone will do something.
Of course.
And it's honestly disgusting when it's just people trying to stop a genocide. And it's,
yeah, and I totally understand, like political protests sometimes I think can be misdirected, but it's the DNC. Of course you would protest. To me, it's like that's the obvious choice. Just like when they were in front of the Capitol, it's all good. When they were in front of the Capitol, when Bibi Netanyahu was here, and on Fox, they were just like, how dare they? And I'm like, no, actually, that's the most appropriate place for them to be.
Protests aren't protests if the people in power like them.
Yeah.
And it's like people who ask, well, why is this the RNC or whatever? And there were protesters at the RNC, but also Democrats are the ones in power. Yeah. You know, I am not here to lecture anyone on how to vote. I say this over and over again, especially Arabs. You know, Joe Biden and Trump had plans and if this is too controversial for your podcast, I'm sorry, but their plans and policies, while different in intentions, you know, would essentially have the same result. People say, you know, well, Trump will make Gaza a hole in the ground. And it's like, it already is. You know, it already is. And Kamala Harris is the vice president of the United States. So I think it's having this pressure here for the people that actually might listen, that don't use Palestinian as a slur, that pride themselves on being the more humane ones. Of course, that's where you're going to put on pressure. Because why would you put pressure on Iraq when you could, you know, a rock that's not good. This is not a good metaphor because you can turn that into a diamond. Why would you put pressure on just like a flat surface, like an unmoving flat surface?
Yeah.
Or dough that wants to get your vote. Because we should just stop giving it out for free. They need to earn our vote.
Well, I also think that I've said this before on my podcast, that I don't take a political position on this on my podcast because I try to just focus on Fox, and it's difficult to advocate and also analyze how Fox is covering, because Fox covers it terribly. Just
but you don't like terribly. When Brian Kilmeade goes, do you know how many Palestinian voices are on TikTok? Not like Hamas, he doesn't even do like the cover thing. He's just like, terrible. People are hearing from Palestinians on TikTok. Like, oh God, not the Palestinians.
Well, and Lawrence Jones says jihadis.
That's always really cool.
And I'm just like, what are you doing? He'll just go, oh, those jihadis, those little jihadis. And I'm just like, and I was one of the people that was clipping that all the time. And he addressed it on air at one point. I don't know if he was talking to me, but he said something about how, well, they just clip this when I say things and they don't understand the context. And I'm like, no, you're calling people a slur that's inappropriate, that doesn't make any sense. You're basically calling people terrorists because they have a right to protest, buddy. Like it or not, they have a right to protest.
And it's like when they're like, we need to ban the word intifada, which first off, cool First Amendment rights, but second, that's a word in a different language. It's just revolution.
Yeah. It also means
something we say every day.
I had somebody come at me over that one because I was doing research on it, and I said, you know, it means more than one thing. And there was an actual intifada, but people use it for other things. And this person got so mad at me and started screaming. I also got, right after the war started, and I've talked about this before many times on my podcast, right after the war started, I said, I can't take a political stance on this because my focus is Fox and I have to keep it on Fox. And that's my job. I'm a journalist. I'm not a pundit. And I got hate from both sides. I got angry emails from both sides. And I said, I don't care. That's fine. My podcast took a hit. I saw it take a hit. It took a while for it to come back. And I just said, don't, just brace for impact. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to be bullied into, trying to appease one side or the other. I said, it's not my job to do that. My job is to report on how Fox reports on this. And Fox does a terrible job reporting on the Israel-Hamas war. The thing that they do the worst, this was my personal favorite thing, is when they would have Israelis come on and the Israelis would start ripping on Bibi Netanyahu. And the people on Fox had no idea what to do. They were like, what,
Right.
what? I'm like, yeah, they hate him. Like, not everybody, but he's not popular. And it
Right.
was like news to people on Fox. They had no idea. They were like shocked. Like, people don't love Bibi Netanyahu. I'm like, no, they don't. So that happened. But anyway, it's been, yeah, Fox is trying to play it up, and I think it's ridiculous. And although, last thing I'm going to say about it is, very quickly, I thought one of the most effective protests I've seen in my lifetime, and again, I'm an old lady who grew up during Reagan, was the uncommitted vote. It
Oh
wasn't,
my God.
it wasn't
Yes.
exciting, but people didn't have signs and stuff, but it showed the Democrats exactly where you have a problem, where you need to do outreach, where you need to fix this problem, where you need to reach these voters, talk to these voters, try to figure out what they want, how you can win them back. And I
And
thought,
that's, I've been saying that to
genius.
the DNC and like DNC organizers and people associated with the Harris campaign. I think I'm the only Palestinian creator here, but definitely one of the few Arab ones in terms of like the creator class that's here. Um, and I was just like, it doesn't have to be me. This is not like me trying to
Yeah.
pitch like some, exclusive for myself, but you guys need to talk to Arabs. Like you need
Yeah.
to, because it's cool that you now have a canned line for your speech because that shows that you're willing to like think on things and take into account other perspectives and realize that you need to like recalibrate. But y'all have been shitting on us for, I mean, the president said that we have an ancestral hatred of Jews, um, which is racist as hell. Y'all need to like talk to us. So I really hope they,
I hope so
follow through
too.
on that. We'll
I hope
see.
so too. And I think it was a brilliant, brilliant move, because it literally showed exactly, like,
Yeah.
Dearborn, this is your problem. This is your problem in Minnesota or Wisconsin or wherever. New York, it didn't work. People tried to do blank ballots and they just didn't get counted.
Yeah.
I know several people who did it and it just went through as like, it didn't get counted. I checked the numbers. I'm like, those didn't count at all. Like, that
Right.
was oops. Because the New York is like, New York's stuck in the 60s. Our voting system is like archaic. Yeah. And when I did stand up, I found the same thing with women. Women were always great with other women.
Yes. And like
Um,
the men in stand up, just a lot of them suck.
it was like going into, when I did it, it felt like going into this like therapy session of a bunch of a bunch of really angry people. Now, not the women, but the men, and not all the men, but like there was just this bitterness of like, people get into comedy to work through their own issues. And so because they use comedy as a way to sort of cope. And
Right.
and so you go to do a night somewhere, and there are like 8 people, who are going to
Yeah.
perform that night, and it's just rapid fire, one after the other. And people would be hanging out afterward, and it was just a bunch of negativity of people just being really angry.
And also so
And
much like fewer women. Sorry, I mean interrupt you, but like I
no
have like a pin
worries.
that says like the only woman on this show.
Yeah,
And there are like a whole bunch of us in DC that had that. We would bring it to like the, you know, open mics or like stand-up sets that we had if we were the only women on the show.
it's true. And then what happened to me a lot, and this was one thing I used to just hate, is right before I would go up, the host or the MC would like sexualize me. So I would be sitting in the audience waiting for my set, and they as I'm walking to the mic, somebody's talking about my body or talking about what I look like, and I just be like, oh my God, I can't. Like, that's not what and my set was just like a really angry, kind of crazy, like, this, everything is, kind of ranty. So it didn't really fit this idea that I was going to be like, ah, like, I think they expected me to do like the whole, like, I'm just a slutty. I mean, that's fine. That's a set. I tip of the hat, but they expected me to do that. Instead, I'm just like, everything is, like, I'm divorced, and it was like this dark set. So it never matched what they were trying to sell me as. It worked. I mean, most of my fans were gay men and women, so I didn't really worry about it. But I'm sure you probably had a similar situation, because that's who
I
women
feel you in my heart right here.
comics definitely appeal to. And I did not know that you did stand up, but that makes perfect sense, because you have a natural sense of humor,
Thank
which
you.
I adore. And I love your sort of droll, I know this interview is kind of going all over the place, but I love your sort of droll kind of like, you're like, this week on Fox. Okay. Like it's subtle instead of being like, it's like great though, because it's just, and then you do these great cuts. And
Thank
I
you.
always admire your work because I'm like, it's very Gen Z and I love it because it's Gen Z. And as a Gen Xer, I'm just like, what? We're doing we're cutting. Oh, that's great. But I love it. It looks great. And then you always constantly change your hair, which I love.
I
It's
think
so
I gotta mix it up. You know, it's fun.
cracks me up. You'll have like a ponytail to one side, or you'll have something on the top of your head. I'm just like, what is she doing? I love it. And the crazy earrings. You're like, look at me, I'm Kat. I have my crazy earrings. And it's just, I just adore it. And I'm just a huge fan. And it always cracks me up. And I did think it was very funny. I told you this when when I first started, one of my friends on Facebook found your account. And this is because I used to do crazy characters in New York and they thought you were me doing a crazy character.
They're like Juliet Unchanged
Yeah,
or Unchained.
they're like, Juliet, is this cat person you? Are you like, and I said, you can Google her. She's a real person and she's half my age. What are you doing? I said, I'm very flattered that you think that I'm that young, but no. And I said, she's amazing. I said, that's not me, but that's so freaking funny. I was like crying laughing because she was deadly serious. My friend who sent that to me was
Well, it's very
completely
flattering on
serious.
my side too. And like I love
Oh,
when people in like our replies try to like pit us against each other. And it's
it
straight up
never
like, bro,
works.
what the fuck are you talking about?
It never
Go
works. And
away.
I would have had you on earlier to the podcast, but what happened was Media Matters is like you have to go through our comms, and I am so weird. I was like, I love Media Matters so much that if I'd asked them for you to be on and they said no, I would have been crushed. So it's like, I'm like, I can't do that. I can't go through that because I'll just be like, they hate me. And I'm like, and I know that's like totally irrational, but I'd be
No, I
like,
totally get that.
you know, and it's because it's like I would have worked for Media Matters, but they were really big about you have to move to DC, and I am an old lady and I own my apartment, and the idea of me moving at that age is terrifying.
Also, sorry about background noise. They're
No
doing tests
worries.
for the DNC. So,
By the way, have you seen anybody exciting? Have you met anybody like, wow, mind blowing?
um, I mean, like the problem with me is I am not a big fan of lionizing political or journalistic
Yeah, I'm this
figures. And
kind of
so I have
similar.
like people, I've had interactions where they think that they're really all that and will talk to me and I'll just feel it. If I really, really am annoyed by it, I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm Kat. How are you? Like, nice to meet you. Um, so there was someone that was a the Onion print launch party
Oh,
who was
wow.
trying to get was it like talking to another person and the photographer came over. I was like, you three get in a picture. I just stepped back. I was like, you guys got this one. I'll pass up on that.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, I went to the Texas Tribune Festival last year to kind of meet and greet and network. And it was really fun. I don't think I'll do it this year because of the election. I can't do anything. I'm working too much. But there were people who have retweeted me and said all these great things uh about my account, and I would meet them in person and they're like they like didn't put it together and they're just like, why are you talking to me? And I was just like, don't worry about it. It's all good. And then there were other people that were like super, super nice. So it just sort of depended on who I was talking to. And I can't. But there was one person like, and then it was funny with because like Texas Tribune, I went up to like Charlie Sykes and he is a fan. He was actually paid, I don't know if he still is, but he was a paid supporter of
if
Decoding
you are,
Fox.
hi Charlie.
Yeah, he's great. Wonderful person. He like shook my hand and was like super nice about saying hi to me. And he was a early adopter of Decoding Fox News. So that was great to meet him in person. And I met a lot of really lovely people who were just great. Um, but I did have a couple weird interactions. The funniest thing I had, do you get this yet? Do people recognize you and go, oh, but they don't know who you are? They just go, oh, wait, you're that person.
In DC, I get people that come up and you're like, you're the Fox News girl, and I'm like, yeah,
You're like, what?
yeah.
What's the difference? So this is totally random, but what's the difference between I lived in Chicago for 8 years. So and I know you just moved to Chicago, but
Yes.
the transition from going from like a city of like DC that's like politics, politics, politics to like Chicago where it's just one of many things.
I mean, to be fair, I just moved to Chicago during the DNC.
Yeah,
So,
you're brand new. You're
but at
brand
the
new.
same time, like I love DC. I consider it my home. Texas blows. So, really great people there, but like I need a public transit system. And so adore DC. And the thing that I think people get wrong about it is it's not all politics, politics, politics. For January 6th, all the people that, those idiots wanted to execute live in Maryland or Virginia. I was a late night bartender in DC for several years. And I think the thing that people get wrong about it is it's just a normal city, except we don't get to vote.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so it hasn't been that big of a change, although now there are no buildings higher than I believe 12 stories in DC. And now I live on, I'm not going to, dox myself, but like above a 50th floor, which is nice.
Yeah, no, Chicago's great, and you'll find out. It's just such a wonderful city. The weather's not great, but other than that, it's a really wonderful city. And then you've got the lake, and it's just so much to do. But I should do I want to do my speed round with you because I think it'd be funny. Okay, here's the speed round. So, who's the dumbest person on Fox?
Brian Kilmeade. I've said this before. His head is just a dial tone. There's nothing else going on in his brain. It's just beep. But you can't leave a message. That's it.
I have a Brian Kilmeade. I do a Brian Kilmeade voice like this.
That's pretty good.
I do them all. I can imitate almost all of them.
But can you do Brian Kilmeade trying to do a haiku? Or a haiku? Because he can't do a haiku.
Brian Kilmeade doesn't know what a haiku is.
He doesn't know what a haiku is. No.
What is that? Hey, what do you?
Do you remember the day that Tucker got, like, when Brian Kilmeade filled in, and he was like, hold on, it was he went football, Patriots, vaccines. That's a riddle. We'll be back soon. And then he just goes, I don't know haikus. He's such a moron.
Well, he reads the instructions. He reads the things where he'll go.
Yeah, he'll go the dumbest person at Fox.
He'll go music cue. Then we're gonna go to graphic. And I'm like, what are you doing?
That was the easiest question anybody's asked me in my life.
Okay, I would have said Jesse Waters, but that's Brian Kilmeade would be the one right below it.
I think just in ranked like brain matter, Brian Kilmeade is easily the lowest.
So that's a bit of a teaser. For the paid subscribers, I have a full kind of joke reel where we just make fun of Fox News, the speed round. I am not used to interviewing people, so I forgot to let Kat plug. I was very excited to talk to her. I'm a bit of a fangirl of hers, and we are both cat people, so we were talking about our cats. So again, my apologies for not doing this properly, but we're just going to go through her link tree very quickly. You can find Kat's work. She's usually under Kat Abu on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, BlueSky. She also makes content for Mother Jones, and she's a contributor for Zeteo News. Please support her work. She does amazing stuff. So the joke is I am on medication right now, and I can't wear my contacts because of it. There's a side effect with the medication, so I have to wear these fabulous glasses that make a huge glare because I'm very blind. Anyway, if you would like to support my work here at Decoding Fox News, you go to my Substack at Decoding Fox News, my Patreon at Decoding Fox News, and paid subscribers, paid supporters get exclusive content for this one. It's going to be a speed round of me asking silly questions about Fox to Kat, and that's about it. And of course, as always, my podcast mascots, Odin and Thor, I'm a little sleepy, send their love. Thanks so much for supporting Decoding Fox News. I'll see you at the next podcast.